Bubba, day one of a Texas series. How fired up are you?
Well, Phil, I'm probably not as fired up as Eddie or Eduardo, but I'm getting pretty close. I'm a little bit. I woke up, my neck was a little swollen this morning, so yeah, I'm ready for game time.
That's right. Got to get your nose opened up at some point on this phone call. Then you're going to have to drop in a woo, just like Eduardo might, just because you brought him up. Yeah, this feels different though today, doesn't? And I've been next to you for, I think we've called 4 games against Texas together. They have felt different than any other game that you and I have called together, and that's just because it's the rivalry. And I think part of it is my experience of doing Texas games is partially sitting next to you and feeling that intensity from you.
Yeah, you know what? It's just different, Phil. It really is. It's and it goes deep. The hatred goes deep, and you know, I remember playing them back in the day. I guess the best way I can explain it, it's different today because the guys don't know. They don't know the rivalry, and all the old timers know it, but I remember playing them back in the day, and when we lost to Texas, I felt like I let the whole state down. You know, we didn't just lose. I mean, it's like I felt like the whole state was disappointed that we got beat by Texas. And, you know, but it's a different feel than like you hear me talk about Ole Miss all the time. My hatred for Texas is different than Ole Miss. I don't like Ole Miss. I don't like the way they play the game. I have no respect for them. But Texas, I hate them. But I respect the way they play the game of baseball, even way back then. As much as I hated them, they played the game the right way, and they were really good. I just hated them. And, you know, I've told you this before, you know, going into the Hall of Honor, you know, years ago, I said in my Hall of Honor speech, I said the hardest thing for me is, my wife's from Texas, the hardest thing for me is to teach my kids to hate Texas without her knowing about it. So, and I think I've done a pretty good job because my kids can't stand Longhorns. I guess I'm doing all right in that aspect.
Yeah, you're doing pretty well with that. You know, the jury's out as far as the Yankees are concerned, though, but that's another topic. Well, but all right, so this, to me, when I learn about what Texas baseball was like, and I felt like Clay Henry did a really great job writing about this in Whole Hog Sports this past Monday, this Texas team is a little bit like, well, maybe a lot like those Texas teams that you played against. Not necessarily you know, the most explosive team offensively, but a team that can really limit you with their pitching. And it's a very deep pitching staff, and it seems that they've got that exact thing in their first year in the SEC, too.
You know, that's a good point. I haven't read that article. I need to go read that because Clay's awesome. But so back then, Phil, they always had the best arms in the country. I mean, if you wanted to face good pitching, you always did when you played University of Texas. I remember Kurt Dressendorfer, Scott Bryant, guys like that. They all threw mid-90s. And back then, mid-90s fastball was rare. Today, I mean, it's almost, if you're not throwing 95, then you're called a stock pitcher. Yeah. But back then, you know, 95 was rare, and those guys, they had good arms back then, and we always got really fired up. Me, I loved hitting anything from the time I was a little kid. I always looked forward to those series because I knew I was going to see really good pitching, and you know, they scored some runs, but I mean, it was always their pitching that carried them back then, and it's the same way today. If you look, I mean, their ERA, if you look at SEC only, I know you've already looked at it, but SEC only, I mean, their ERA is 2.98. I mean, we're 4.68. I mean, they're leading, but when it comes to hitting, they're not hitting. They're ninth in the SEC in hitting. We're first in the SEC. So if you're a baseball fan that loves good pitching versus good hitting, this is going to be a really fun series for you to come watch.
So is it as important for the Arkansas pitchers to match them? You know, I mean, where do you put where Arkansas can win this series? Is it a matter of, well, they've got to find a way to score a lot of runs against these guys, or do you think that Arkansas's starting pitching specifically can start getting back to where it looked like they might be when the season started, and really the rotation's just kind of not been as I don't know if dominant is the right word, but just it's been shaky. And I feel like a shaky starting rotation just leads to potential shaky everything else.
Phil, I think it starts with Zach Root tonight. I think it's real important to set us up for the rest of the weekend, I think it's important that he gives us, 5-6 good innings tonight. I think our pitching can neutralize their offense. And with no disrespect to their offense, they don't have a Jace Lavalette or a Caglione or Charlie Condren, or they don't have. They're not like a powerful lineup that you fear. Now they got guys top to bottom that can put the ball in play, and every once in a while they'll pop a home run. I mean, they're not a bad lineup. I just think our pitching can neutralize their lineup. The key for us is cracking their pitches. Now, if you look at who they threw last week against A&M, they really lean on a few guys real heavily. They got Dylan Belantis. He threw 2 games last weekend against A&M. He threw on the Friday game and the Saturday game, and then you've got Max Grubbs as the big righty. He threw all 3 games. So I feel like Schwarzenegger's circle of trust is really small. If we can get in their bullpen early tonight, I think that really sets us up well for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah. What do you make of having a TBA for the last game of the series? What does that mean to you right now?
I love it. I absolutely love it. That tells me that Dave's going, okay, so last week you and I talked about, like our back's not against the wall. We went to Florida, their back's against the wall. They played things a little differently than what we did. We could have used Jimenez more than once. We did. We went in, we won one of the games. Their back was against the wall. Not to say our back's against the wall, but we need a series win this weekend. So I think by TBA, that means if we need to bring in Vital Cheese Saturday in a high leverage situation to get a couple lefties out, I don't know if they're going to stack their lineup with lefties Saturdays with our righties going. If they do, we can bring Vital Cheese in and ride him for a few innings. I just like it. And then if we end up not needing Vital Cheese, he can go ahead and start on Sunday. If we use Vital Cheese and maybe we don't use like a Dylan Carter, he can start, or we can just do an opener on Sunday. I really like it because it gives us a lot more flexibility to go out, and when we see an opportunity to get the win, we take the win right then.
I wonder what's up with Gabe Frazier right now. Dave referred to it yesterday that he's had some things going on. I know there was a hamstring earlier. He got hit by a couple of pitches against Florida. Logan Maxwell, I think, is relegated to just hitting, so I don't know if that means if he'll DH at all this weekend. I don't know if they want to put Cahillo at a position or whether Logan will just pinch hit. But he has said, we're going to need production from some guys who haven't necessarily had the opportunity to. And, it just seems, I don't know if you get the same guys you had out there last week. It doesn't sound like Maxwell will play very much.
Well, I listened to the interview, and then I was a little troubled by it, and I went back and listened to it again. And if you kind of read between the lines, it doesn't sound good. If you look at the availability report, it shows, obviously, Souza, Coyle, and Wiggins out. Shows Gabe Frazier, Logan Maxwell, Michael Anderson all questionable. That's not good. Now, is it the end of the world? No. We got Cam Kosel. He moved over to second. Pepe can play some first. And I think that's what Dave's referring to. Maybe right field, Carson Bowles. Maybe it's the weekend that Kendall Diggs will bust out or a Pepe will bust out. I feel like someone different has to have a big weekend for us. And I'm anxious to see who that's going to be, but I think someone's going to step up and have a big weekend. I don't think we need a ton of offense to beat Texas. I don't think they're going to score a ton of runs. I would go with a Carson Bowles in right field. Maybe sacrifice a little bit of defense for a little more offense. If you look at the splits, their starter tonight's a righty. Lefties hit about 50 points higher against them. You might see Kendall Diggs in right field. I don't know. There's a lot of different directions Dave can go with it, but it's a little frustrating when you look at all the injuries we have, and but that's the key. Good teams, it's next man up. Someone's got to step up and do something big for us this weekend.
That's for sure. It's not a tailspin, though, Bubba. How have you viewed these last 3 weeks for a team that's I think played teams that are better than their records show? I think Florida is very talented. I was surprised they were 1-10. A&M, they're better than their record shows. I think these are two teams that are going to make the tournament and could make some noise when they're there. But what do you make of these last 3 weeks and what it means for what we thought Arkansas was?
I don't think it. I let me rephrase that. I don't want to put too much emphasis on the next few weeks. You know what I want? I want to win enough games that we're playing at Baum-Walker in June.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that means. Maybe we go 5-4. That probably gets us at home. So I don't read too much into it. You know, Phil, I look at it totally different. Without the division, I look at this 16-team thing when I click on the standings, and it's just a big freaking mess.
Yeah.
You know, there's no division anymore, so who cares? I mean, really, if you win the SEC, let's say Texas wins the SEC title and they lose the regional, does anyone care if they won the SEC title? No one cares. Same with us. I don't think any of that matters. I think people just care about what happens that last weekend of baseball. And you look at the SEC, you got a team like Florida, A&M ranked 12th right now, 11th, 12th in the SEC. They could win a national championship. What other conference could say that? I mean, it's crazy how good the SEC is. But do you know what I mean about the divisions? It kind of takes away from winning the SEC title, I think. I just don't think it means that much. I think we need to just go out, win enough games where when June rolls around, we're playing at Baum-Walker. That's all I care about.
I think the way the coaches look at it is like finishing the top 4 in the league, but is that really worth celebrating? Yay, we're number 4. We're number 4. You used to actually mean something to win a division. It really did. I think it's different now.
And it doesn't. And so, I mean, do you kind of know what I mean, though, about the whole title thing? It just doesn't feel the same this year. What do you think we have to do to play at home in June?
In terms of number of wins, I mean, I think it just matters who it comes against. You win the series in Baton Rouge. I mean, road series wins just seem to matter a lot. I think if you win 4 games in these next 9, and it would be a losing record, but I don't think you can lose 6 series in a row to go in the postseason and expect to play at home. I think they're going to have to find a way to win at least 1 series in there. So I'd say at the very least 4 wins. They go 5-4, I'll feel really good about them being top 8.
Yeah, I agree. But you know what, Phil, we don't know how good Texas is. Look who they played on the road. They played Mississippi State, Missouri, and who else?
Kentucky.
Somebody else. Yeah. They haven't really been challenged on the road, so we don't know how good Texas is. I mean, the way the schedule is supposedly the computer spits out the schedule, supposedly. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder. We got the short end of the stick there. We got kind of screwed on that. I mean, our schedule is the toughest in the nation. Texas got a really friendly schedule, and you can say that about in football sometimes also. Texas had a really easy schedule in football, I thought, this year. So it's kind of hard when you've got 16 teams. It's just a random schedule, and whoever gets to play Missouri, I'm sorry. I mean, that's a cakewalk. That's 3 easy wins right there. So you almost want to look at that and say that weekend really didn't count. Of course, we'll take our 3 wins we got against them, but I don't know. I just think it's not fair the way the schedule's set up sometimes, because it just who you have to play versus who the other teams have to play isn't always equal.
Hey, Bubba, yesterday we brought it out to see if you saw about this Mets fan, 98-year-old gentleman named Seymour Wiener, who passed away, and the Mets yesterday did a $1 hot dog night in order to honor him. They literally did this. So I played, because we were talking about our favorite names, I played our favorite. Remember the former Auburn pitcher who's now at Texas Tech? You know who I'm talking about. I don't even have to say his name, and you know who I mean.
I know who you're talking about. Every time I hear fuzz, I almost fall over in my chair.
I wanted to say
Seymour. What was his name? Seymour Wieners?
Seymour Wiener is his name. It's just Wiener. It's not plural, unfortunately. Although I think plural would go along with the first name there. Yeah.
Wow, I got to grow up, Phil. I'm sorry.
I think the marketing director for the Mets needs to grow up, and so do I, for highlighting this on the show for 2 days in a row.
No, I think it's awesome. God bless him.
Well, I think God did. He lived to 98, so.
It's time to head to the track as the first leg of the Triple Crown, the Kentucky Derby, is here. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your Kentucky Derby info and sports betting action. With the largest selection of odds on everything from the NBA and NHL playoffs to the MLB and UFC and boxing, BetOnline has you covered for all your online wagering information. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here.